Namaste. This is Timothy Halloran. I'm an astrologer from Savannah, Georgia. This is a bi-weekly astrological forecast for the final week of December 2015. And it is, believe it or not, the day before Christmas, despite it not exactly feeling like Christmas around here. We're having some freak warmth here in the United States in some places due to tropical storms caused by global warming. So Merry Christmas to all. And several days ago we had our winter solstice. So on Monday was the winter solstice, and this is the day that the sun transits from the sign of Sagittarius into the sign of Capricorn. And of course, because the zodiac is based from the actual wobble of the ecliptic, this is also the darkest period for the majority of us in the northern hemisphere. So this winter solstice is this time of letting go. Yes, there is a theme of rebirth that happens during this winter solstice as we sort of let go of old patterns and now we start to redirect into new patterns. And of course, the focus of our report today is going to be the full moon in Cancer, which is coincidentally tomorrow, which is Christmas Day. So irrelevant of what we celebrate, this is this period of time where there is this period where we're celebrating various, we got Christmas and Hanukkah, so whether or not we're gathering around the Christmas tree or lighting the menorah or doing some type of winter solstice celebration, there is this time of coming together and celebrating and remembering, reminiscing. So coincidentally, we do have this full moon in Cancer tomorrow. And of course, Cancer is the sign of the past and the family and the home. So this is where we're going to be exploring and feeling many of the energies that are really coming to us from our depth, as Cancer is also our emotional core. It's not always seen as so, but really Cancer is our own egoic core. It's what we identify with, it's what we relate to, because Cancer is our memories, it's our tapes of past experiences that get played to us through our feelings, which comes naturally and automatically and speaks to us of itself. Feelings come through feelings, and so the full moon in Cancer is a powerful full moon. The sign of Cancer is natally ruled by the moon. And the moon is our emotional core, which is irrational. Our emotions and our feelings do not come from the labels of our mind. So this is a period where we can be feeling things, and it's not always understood what we're feeling. But the feelings nonetheless can be powerful and they can be revealing. And I think what is particularly revealing with some of the feelings that are coming up as we gather together in our families, as we do some type of celebration or tradition, or simply reminiscing, simply being tapped into the collective consciousness. And so what we're talking about here is, on the surface, we may have these ideals. And these ideals are really expectations of what we want to do, of what we hope to do, whether it be making cookies together, or, the whole, the gingerbread house, or we want to do some simply, coming together, or we simply want to have some time for ourselves, to be away from work and to be able to relax. And this is a period where we have to be as easygoing and forgiving of ourselves as possible by sort of anticipating these ideals not always coming together perfectly the way we expect them to. And this really should be something we should keep in mind as a way of nurturing and loving ourselves. It's not setting ourselves up for disaster and being just like, oh, Christmas, nothing works out the way. No, this is about understanding that when things don't exactly work out the way we hope or imagine, we give ourselves the flexibility and the permission just to let go and to let things come to us this time around. And maybe, this is a period of time where we can carry many responsibilities, and it's my duty to do this, and of course we have all the insecurities with money that tends to come up this time of year. So this full moon brings up the Cancer-Capricorn polarity, which is a very relevant polarity for all of us souls on this planet at this time. We've got Pluto going through Capricorn, coming up to his own south node in several years. This is a remarkable period that doesn't even happen once in a lifetime. And this is a period of really challenging our past and seeing what is there that is not perfectly working. And all of this is happening simultaneously with the Cancer moon, illuminating our emotional needs and our feelings and what I like to see as our inner child, okay? Because our emotional core, our egoic center, I like to relate to as a child because it's our memories, it's our past, it's our family, etc. And the way that we feel safe, this part of ourself feels safe, is through nurturance and an environment in which we feel like we can express our feelings and not feel like that's bad in any way. Like, I'm not going to ruin the party, I'm not going to be a party pooper. And so this part of ourself that's being illuminated, it's very, very important for us to nurture as we would any child. And so when it comes time to the demands and the overstimulation of life, it is appropriate for us to know when to back off and to shut the doors and to care and nurture for ourselves, particularly when other people and the outer world and the outer environment does not do a very good or appropriate job of doing this. And this is the theme and the story of our world, is that this world does not do a very good or appropriate job of teaching us or encouraging us to be able to properly nurture ourselves in this type of way. That is an emotional caring for our own inner innocence, which speaks to us through feelings. And it says, I've been hurt by this, I've been suppressed by this, etc. But this is the challenge, is that the sun has just entered Capricorn now. We've got Mercury in Capricorn, and of course Pluto's transiting Capricorn. And Capricorn is where all of us souls have over-invested in the past. And it's nobody's fault, it's not a good or bad, black or white type of game. It is simply the truth that we have all collectively invested in the sign of Capricorn, and thereby distorting it and kind of leading Capricorn away from what Capricorn is naturally supposed to be, because we were hyper attached to it. Now Capricorn is our physical security. Capricorn is our capability to feel safe and protected in the world. And I've got my defenses, I've got my food, I've got my shelter, I can protect myself, I can be strong. And of course, natural Capricorn has all these wonderful things within it, such as the capability to have a mature, wizened guidance that we can provide to other people coming from real world experience, a type of practicality. And this practicality is actually the key. We want to be stepping into a objectivity that allows us to practically discern the world, in which case we can take care of our emotional core and our inner child, but in such a way where we're actually being our own parent, and we're sort of seeing from an objective lens and allowing ourselves to feel there's a symbiotic relationship that we are capable of harnessing through this full moon. But what is really difficult is Capricorn and the distortions of it, coming from our parents, coming from traditions, coming from our governments, from our jobs. And so I like to assign personalities to the archetypes because I feel like it makes it more relatable. And so this is the personality of distorted Capricorn. It's like the war general. Maybe we can think of like the president of the FDA or something in the United States, and it is this rigid, powerful, this is how it is. The United States of America has always done things this way, and we are the total authorities of the world. Therefore, you need to meet this, and this, otherwise you are going to go to jail. This is what happened, is distorted Capricorn made it so we have to become so safe. We need to watch out for enemies. We need to have enough money to survive. That we focused on Capricorn, and thereby it became distorted, and now we're hyper. Oh, make sure that you do things perfectly, otherwise you're gonna die, you're gonna go to jail, you're gonna bite the bullet, you're gonna pay the price. And this is the way it is, Sonny. You better suck it up, because if you don't, that's the voice that we all hear. The collective soul hears this voice all the time. If you don't, you're gonna be in trouble. If you don't work extra hard this week, even though you're on Christmas vacation, if you don't take care of the family and make sure everybody has a great time, if you don't get the perfect presents for your children, well, then what kind of a father or a mother are you? You're not exactly living up to expectation here, and thereby I give you an F for failure. This is the voice of distorted Capricorn, and do we all know this voice? I think every single soul knows this voice in some shape or form, because we're coming from a collective history where we have had to fight to survive. There has been wars everywhere, and it has been that type of gritty, dog-eat-dog situation, but it's not the world we live in anymore. And so we have to be able to identify our own inner war general and not let him beat the living crap out of our own inner child that we need to nurture. And simultaneously, we have to be practical. We do have to live in the world. We can't abandon our job. So this is the challenge, and we're coming together with our families during this time. We're practicing our traditions during this time. What are we seeing underneath all of this? Well, there is a lot of stuff that is coming out of fundamental beliefs. Of course, when we're celebrating these various religious practices, this is coming out of beliefs and out of tradition, but even like the political, national stuff, this is all coming into the ideals of what it means to be an American, of what it means to be a good person, okay? And so we sort of gather together, and so the reels of the past are replaying. And we're looking at our traditions, and we're looking at our family, and we're looking at how we done things before. And we're starting to feel our own inner stuff squirm. I can't get out of here. There's no room to breathe. What, you know? And this is the stuff here. This is like the feeling that I think that we're starting to feel, as we can start collectively feel like, oh, okay, like, you know what? I've been kind of busting my ass for a little bit, haven't really felt connected to the divine for a while. That's the Saturn square to Neptune that we're going to talk about. It's been going on for a while, going to be going on for the next year. And so there's this, challenging of our fundamental beliefs, which many of us gathered security from. I'm not totally certain about these things anymore. Now I'm having to do all these things in the world. And all these little things keep coming up and challenging me, like there's extra things stacked on my back. And all the meanwhile, there's these feelings that are going on down below. And it's like there's this person inside of us that's trying to grab on as it slips down, the quicksand. And then we're around our family. And it's like trigger after trigger, little thing after little thing. And this guy inside is, he's starting to flip out and scramble and to grab on to more and more and more. And the thing that we have to be very careful of, and the way to eliminate this, is we have to back away, nurture yourself. Oh, you feel too overburdened by stuff? It's time to set stuff down, take a shower, take a break for a minute. Just take a breath. Because when we're scrambling and we feel ourselves going down and we just got to keep going. Oh, don't show our emotions. Oh, the guy inside's freaking out. Uncle Jess just said the most hideously arrogant and ignorant thing I've ever heard in my entire life. There are 10,000 people turning in their graves. There's millions of innocent children that are starving as a result of this arrogance. And I'm okay. What we need to do is to make sure that we take time to calm ourselves, to take our breaths and get into this objective lens before our emotions start projecting and vomiting and scapegoating onto everybody else. At the time of this full moon, we've got Black Moon Lilith in Libra, opposite to Uranus, square to Pluto. Black Moon Lilith is this part of ourself that has been so oppressed and so ignored for so long, largely due to the structures within our traditions, within our governments, within our culture, this part of ourself that is our own connection to a nature that is free from the rigidity, from the box of you need to get stamped to be approved, you need to be approved. There's this part of ourselves that's been so tired of being shoved under and shoved under, shoved under. She's just screaming and wants to rage out of us. And she is this burning desire for freedom and equality, particularly equality, while she's in the sign of Libra. But the danger here is when we're feeling so much and it's just so intense and the wounds are all getting brought out of us. Well, it's like we can almost not feel, it's when we feel so much, we each have like a limit. And when we start going beyond the limit, it starts to get projected and go on to other people. So we have to be able to look out for ourselves. And when you see somebody else starting to go under and you start to see them scramble, it's a time for you to, oh, okay, can I get you some water, or should we go on a walk or something? It's not a time to say, oh, look at her. She's all upset. She's getting mad. It's not a time to be scapegoating. It's not a time to be blaming the other person as we feel the feelings that feel so powerful. We can't handle them, and so we don't want to take responsibility sometimes. So when we are feeling overwhelmed, when we're feeling all the stuff that we can't even really identify, but it keeps festering, and then Aunt Jess says that terrible thing, we do need to remember that she is not the enemy. Okay, she might be arrogant, she might be ignorant, there might be a lot of misunderstanding in the world. Okay, but it's not the soul. Okay, it's the system, it's the tradition, it's the history of pain. It's like you can go to the whole Israel-Palestine and be just like, oh, they're so racist against one another. Shouldn't they just grow up and just love each other? Well, they have a history of their families being killed on each side. And yet we're trying to evolve out of this blaming and the reactivity onto the other that perpetuates this. Aunt Jess says something that triggers us, so we lash out, and then that makes Aunt Jess get hurt, and then she lashes out, and this is how this stuff builds up. But how can we move through this in a way where we're not ruining Christmas, where we're not making it all negative and it's all wounds and it's all the past and all this stuff? Well, we do need to release these things. This is the main misunderstanding in our culture that comes from distorted Capricorn, is that we should not take the time to release our feelings, and men should never cry because it's a sign of weakness. And women, you're a pest when you're whining and you're complaining about your feelings. Well, we're learning, because we haven't been taught by anybody, how to release our feelings in a healthy way, and this, furthermore, is the best medicine of this day and age. Like, we're all afraid when we start to feel stuff, like, I'm starting to feel stuff, what am I going to do? Slam another beer, do something to shove it back down, which makes it fester and get distorted and worse and worse and worse and worse. It's like if you have poisons in your body, do you not just want to purge it out? Well, some people are so afraid of vomiting or purging that instead it just festers and festers and festers. And so we're trying to understand that it's not even so grotesque as this. When we release these feelings, it's actually amazing. Oh my goodness, it is the greatest form of relief for the majority of souls on this planet, is emotional release. And yet we culturally believe that this is inappropriate because being emotional is a sign of failure or a sign of weakness. And so what happens is we all have our ideals for Christmas and Santa, and everyone's going to be happy and blah, 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 blah. And some people take this to the extreme to even believe that enlightenment is all about happiness. A severe patriarchal distortion. That's not what enlightenment is. And so, we have to understand that actually the greatest thing that most of us want is to simply release what we feel, which is majorly just the tapes of the past, and we remember them, and it brings up feelings, and then we release them. And what's happening simultaneously is we are all coming together and we're starting to identify the core causes of how we've all been wounded and suppressed, which isn't your mom or dad or Aunt Jess or anything. Yes, there might have been things that happened. There might have been experiences, and I'm not berating or belittling the experiences that we can go through that are very painful. However, the cause of these experiences, is it because they're bad? Is it because blah, blah, blah? It's like we are evolving collectively out of these belief systems that rely on scapegoating. Because when we start to feel bad beyond a certain level, it's like we can't handle it anymore, and so we have to blame somebody else. And yet we are starting to own up for the fact right now that our distorted collective beliefs is what allows for the majority of suffering to happen here. And so we have to look at these beliefs and understand that we can't have belief systems anymore that permits or encourages scapegoating. Which means that we can't have belief systems anymore that divide the good guys and the enemy. All right? And we're seeing collectively what happens when we live in a world where we possess those belief systems collectively. And what's really, really amazing is then we live in this world and everybody's dying and everybody's suffering, and what does everybody say? How can God put us in a world where there's so much damn suffering? That frickin' asshole God? We scapegoat God. We can't handle so much stuff because it's just too much for us to handle. It's like we just have to assign it to everybody else. So what is the medicine? What is the key? What is the solution? Well, we've got Venus going through Scorpio, and this is relating to other people in a deeper way. And so we're having these profound discussions. We're having these deep feelings that then we have the opportunity to look at in a mature and objective way. So Venus is sextile to Jupiter and the moon's north node, sextile to Mercury. Mercury is in Capricorn, trine to Jupiter in Virgo as Jupiter approaches this north node. What is Jupiter approaching this north node? Is us having to go forward by illuminating what needs to be healed, which is in a down-to-earth, practical way. In a down-to-earth, practical way, we are starting to see, this is what happened. It was a failure to communicate. It was some type of emotional issue. There was a psychosis. You know what I'm saying? It's like we can have an objective, almost mechanical lens in order to sort of evolve out of all the BS that wants to blame one another, that wants to scapegoat, that wants to complain. And we're still loving and nurturing our feelings, okay? The wounded inner child that's expressing these things deserves to express these things. And we're learning to do this in a very effective way, which is not through vomiting on one another, it's through actually seeing the beauty of our own story. In which case, when you feel really, really sad and you have all these emotions, you need to separate yourself, maybe take a bath, and maybe sing something. Do something to release the feelings. Put it into art, put it into music. You know, it's like in the olden days, people used to be inspired by, the macabre, and the people would have a skull on their desk in order to inspire them of poetry because of life. And there is this limited nature. There is this sadness here. There is a lack of perfection here. The ideals that we possess is us aiming for perfection. But as we evolve, because we're not perfect yet, our ideals also evolve. What is perfect changes as we change. And we're not perfect. We may never be perfect, and that's okay. We can be okay with the beauty of what is, of the past, okay? Of these traditions, of these past experiences, that we may feel we are now seeing in a different light than we used to before, all right? And that is okay as we evolve into something new and different. All right? This time of year is an energetically potent time, the winter solstice, We should do some type of celebrating. We should do some type of coming together. But how we do this, and the pressure we put on ourselves, and the traditions that we may be forcing ourselves to uphold, the question is this healthy? Jupiter going through Virgo is us focusing on our health. You know? It's like when you get in the 12-hour car drive to drive across the country, maybe this time we shouldn't be just like, well, we got to do this, and we got to see this waterfall, and then we got to be there by 3 o'clock, so that way we can do this family celebration. And all the meanwhile, we have been ignoring the fact that we haven't been eating, we haven't been taking care of our bodies, and all of these subtle emotions of I'm belittled and all I'm ignored are coming up from us. And so there is the opportunity for us to speak in such a way where we are addressing the actual health issues. It's just, it's just when your body gets sick, we purge things out. It's not a punishment. It's not because you're a failure. I mean, we just have wired our brains in such an unhealthy way because of some of these beliefs and traditions. Even as far to go that we have the Santa Claus who judges you, and you either get coal or you get gifts dependent on whether you are a good person or a bad person. So we whip ourselves in the back because we're not being a perfectly good person, because the expectations and the obligations set by society, culture, and traditional may not actually be perfect yet. They're unhealthy, they're belittling our emotions, our own inner child, and so we feel exhausted, and then we blame ourselves. So as we give ourselves permission to reflect upon the past, as we give ourselves permission to release our cellular memories, which gives us a capability to do so much more than we ever did before. Another simple irony is, the stereotypical man will say the football player is never encouraged to cry. Yet many of us souls contain cellular memories and wounds from the past that we don't even rationally remember. And so we prevent ourselves from releasing these irrational memories that we don't remember, and the football player thinks he's going to play better football feeling 1,000 tons of cellular memory on his back. No. As we release these things, we get lighter. We get more spontaneous. We get more free. We see more. That our emotions, and even the sadness of our emotions, is not a problem. Go watch the recent Pixar movie. What was it? Anyways, it's all about, sadness is a part of the beauty of life that allows us to experience the fullness of reality and us coming together. And when there is pain and when there is separation, it brings us together. It allows us to appreciate. It allows us to really merge together in such a way where we have to surrender ultimately. We have to surrender to what is beyond us, and we're all a little afraid of this. What is beyond us. And so we come together and we celebrate our nature. We celebrate us being human beings. We don't know everything. We may not have met God in person, but at least we can celebrate the fact that we do have a family. We do have people that we can reflect our emotions off of. When we react, this is still a reflection that's happening, but it's an unconscious reflection because we scapegoat and blame the other and say, you are the catalyst of this reflection. But actually, if we can see that this is all reflection on our own story, our own core, our own history is being reflected back to us, then it's all really quite beautiful. And all emotions and all feelings, irrelevant of where they line up on the spectrum, reveal to us our glory, our story, our power, our uniqueness, which then gives birth to our capability to change the future and improve the future in such a way where we are greater aligned. Our inner child is not at war with the war general, and the war general is not berating the inner child. We are allowed to play and enjoy every role. We are allowed to be the child when it is necessary to be the child, to relax and to set the work down when the work is becoming oppressive. And when it is time to be a grown-up and to seize our power and to create and to build, then we will do this as well. So in that regard, I am wishing all the best. May we move through all insecurities and fear in order to discover a new, brilliant fearlessness and a security which grants us the capability to relax into every single moment and breath as it comes. It is all nature. It's all going to be okay. Namaste.